It's strange how silence can be the loudest thing in a room. Since he left this world, the walls of our home echo differently. His laughter no longer dances in the hallways, and the warmth of his presence now lingers only in my memory before going deeper into like the video and subscribe. Ash helps me a lot. I sit on the edge of orbit each night, the sheets still remembering his shape, and I pretend he's just out for a while, but deep down, I know grief isn't something. You escape it, melts into your bones until even your heartbeat feels heavier. I didn't expect to feel anything again. Not joy, not excitement, not that kind of softness that makes your breath catch. And yet somehow in the quiet moments, a different presence began to stir something within me. A presence I'd known for years, but never like this. His eyes had changed. Or maybe mine had. It started with glances. Not those careless ones passed in greeting, but something quieter. Deeper, the kind you feel on your skin before you see it. I had caught him, watching me. Not watching, noticing like he was seeing more than what was in front of him. He'd grown, not just taller or older, but into himself, into someone who didn't just belong to the background of my memories, but was now becoming part of my present one. Morning. I walked into the kitchen and he was already there, making coffee, sunlight slipping across his face like it belonged there. His hair was a bit messy, shirt, sleeves rolled up carelessly, and when he smiled there was something in it that stopped me mid-step. That's all. It was paused too long, looked too warm, and yet nothing was said. Nothing needed to be. He handed me the mug. Our fingers brushed barely, and my pulse skipped just a flicker. But in a heart that had felt numb for months, that flicker felt like thunder. I avoided his eyes, but I knew he'd felt it too. The days passed, with unspoken moments piling up like books. On a shelf he would linger in doorways, offered to help with things I didn't need help with. He'd ask about my day, and I'd find myself telling him, more than he mayn't, too. There was a kindness in his voice, but something else, something that trembled beneath the surface. It wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't wrong, and yet it felt like standing too close to a flame, comforting and dangerous a tunce. One evening, we sat outside on the porch. The wind was soft, brushing through the trees, carrying scents of jasmine and something that felt like memory. We didn't talk much, just sat side by side, but his hand was close enough that if I shifted just slightly, it might graze me, and I did shift just slightly. Our fingers didn't touch, but the space between them became charged. I could feel the pull of it. The what if. And he turned to me slow and careful, as if afraid the moment might vanish if he moved too quickly. "You've been quiet lately," he said, and nodded. "It's just everything still feels different." He looked at me for a long time. Different doesn't always mean bad, I wanted to reply, but I couldn't. His gaze held mine, and in it I saw all the things we hadn't said. His eyes were steady, but there was a softness there, a kind of unguarded tenderness that Madame want Tolan in, just to see if the warmth was real. "I miss him," I whispered, and my voice cracked. He leaned closer, not too close, just enough to make me feel like I wasn't alone in that space. "I miss him too, but I see you, and you don't have to carry everything by yourself." There was a lump in my throat I couldn't swallow down, and for a moment I wanted to rest my head on his shoulder. I didn't, but the thought lingered the next. Few weeks passed like a delicate song playing in the background of a quiet life. He started bringing me little things, flowers from the garden, my favorite snacks from the store, fixing things around the house without being asked. And I started to notice the way my heart reacted when he entered a room. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was something gentler, like hope wrapped in hesitation. One afternoon it rained heavy and fast. We were both caught in the backyard trying to bring in the laundry before it got soaked. We laughed as, wearing arms full of wet clothes, hair clinging to our faces. By the time we got inside, we were drenched and breathless. Looked at him, and he looked at me. Something passed between us, something wordless, and powerful. My clothes clung to my skin, and his eyes lingered for a second longer than they should have. But it wasn't desire in them. It was longing. The kind that comes from holding back it. Turned away, pretending to busy myself. With the laundry he stepped, closer, not touching, but near enough that I could feel his warmth behind me. I didn't move. You look beautiful, he said, voice low, and barely audible above the rain. Froze my heart. Thundered. I wanted to ask why he said that. I wanted to ask what he meant, but it knew. Deep down I knew turned slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes were stormy. I could see the conflict there, the struggle between what was right and what was real. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, I said, before I could stop myself. He stepped back, giving me space, giving me time. I just want you to know you're not invisible. Not to me that night. I couldn't sleep. His words played over and over in my head. I wasn't invisible, not him. And somehow that meant more than I could admit. The next day I found him sitting by the window sketching. I didn't know he drew. I asked if I could see, and he hesitated before turning the book around. It was me, not in an obvious way. It wasn't about likeness. It was about feeling the curve of a shoulder, the way the light fell on the side of a face. He'd drawn me the way I felt when I used to be loved, as if someone had memorized my softness and wanted to keep it safe. I didn't say anything, couldn't. But I sat beside him closer. This time. Close enough that our arms touched, and I didn't move away. Days bled into nights, each one bringing us closer to a line. Neither of us wanted to cross, but neither of us could ignore. He became my quiet, my comfort, and maybe I became his reason to stay one evening. I couldn't take the weight of silence anymore. Do you think it's wrong? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, startled. Whatever it is we're not saying. He sighed, resting his elbows and his knees. It's not wrong to care. It's not wrong to feel something, but I don't want to hurt you or confuse you. You've lost so much, and knotted my throat tight. But I'm still here, and I feel alive again because of you. He turned to me slowly. Then let's just be here together. No promises, no expectations. Just here, and in that moment the world felt quiet again, but this time, not in mourning. This time in peace. There was something sacred in the way. The days passed after that conversation. He didn't rush anything, and neither did, but everything felt more intentional. Every glance, every word, every shared silence held weight. We didn't call it love, but in all the quiet ways that mattered. It was growing between us like if he climbing through the cracks of our hearts. Some evenings we cooked together. He would stand beside me, offering help. He knew I didn't need reaching for spices that were already within my grasp, lingering near my shoulder longer than sir. And I would pretend not to notice. Though my heart beat faster with every passing moment, the kitchen became our sanctuary, filled with a clatter of utensils and the hum of something I didn't dare name. One night, as we prepared dinner, I dropped a spoon. We both reached for it. At the same time, our hands collided and we froze. His fingers gently brushed Miniesh, picked it up, and for the first time, he didn't pull away. His touch lingered, soft like a question waiting to be answered. I think about you, he said, suddenly, as if the words had been bottled up for too long. I looked at him, startled. Not in a way that disrespects. What we've lost, he continued, but in a way that honors what could still be found. My breath caught. There was nothing improper in his voice. Only honesty, only hope. I looked away, afraid that meeting his gaze might make my heart betray its steady rhythm. I don't. I know what this is, I whispered. He stepped a little closer. It doesn't have to be anything yet. I just want to be near you, and if that's all it ever is, that's still enough. That night I sat alone in my room, staring at the ceiling, my mind circling around. His words, I hadn't expected him to say it, but once he did, I couldn't unhear it. Couldn't unknow the way my body reacted. When he entered the room, or the way my soul leaned toward his without permission. The seasons began to shift. Autumn colored the trees, outside with hues that mirrored the slow burn I felt. Inside we spent more time together, without needing excuses. Late walks in the neighborhood, sharing books, listening to old records. In the quiet of the living room, the house that once felt too big for one heart now felt full again, but it was a different kind of fullness. Gentle healing, slow one afternoon, a neighbor dropped by. Unexpectedly, she glanced at us sitting together. Unraised a curious brow later, she sent me a message short, sharp, and filled with quiet judgment. She didn't need to say much. The implication was clear. I stared at her words, my chest tightening. The world didn't understand, and maybe it never would. But that didn't mean what I felt was wrong. Still, doubt slipped in like a chill draft. Through a cracked window, that night I grew distant. I avoided his gaze, kept conversations brief. He noticed, of course, he did heel ways. Noticed he found me in the garden the next morning, pulling at tweeds that didn't need to be pulled. Did I do something? He asked softly. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. He stepped closer. Then why do you look at me like I'm someone you're trying to... Forget it, turned toward him, heart heavy. Because it would be easier if I could. He didn't speak for a moment. When he finally did, his voice was steady. I don't want to be easy. I want to be real, and just like that. The walls I'd started to build crumbled again. I stepped toward him, just a little close enough to feel the warmth between us. The sun was peeking through the trees, casting golden patterns on his skin. He looked at me. The way one looks at a painting you're afraid to touch, full of awe. Full of care. Think I'm afraid, I whispered. He nodded. So am I, but I'd rather be afraid with you than safe without you for the first time. In months, I allowed myself to be held not with arms but with presence. With the steadiness of someone who wasn't asking for anything more than this moment. Later that evening, as we sat on the porch, he leaned into him just a little. My shoulder brushed his, and I didn't pull away. Neither did he. The silence stretched, soft and familiar. Do you remember that night he trained? Asked Hesmelid. I think about it all the time. So do I. I admitted it was the first time it felt something. Again he turned to me, eyes searching. Mine, and now I looked down, then up him now. I feel everything. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out slowly, gently, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers barely grazed my skin, but my entire body reacted as if he touched something deeper than flesh. The world around us seemed to fade. No past, no future, just now. Eventually he stood and reached for my hand. Come with me. I followed him through the house, up the stairs, into the attic. Had transformed the space. Soft light strung from the beams, books stacked neatly beside a cozy chair, an asmaltable with tea already waiting. I've been working on something, he said, picking up a notebook. He hesitated before handing it to me. It's about you, about us, not astery, just pieces of moments. I opened the book and read. His words weren't polished, but they were honest, raw emotions scribbled across the page. About grief, about finding beauty in unexpected places, about a woman who knowingly breathed life back into someone who didn't know he needed saving. I closed the book, heart trembling. Why are you giving this to me? Asked because I want you to know that I see you, he said, not just as someone who was loved once, but as someone still worthy of being cherished. I looked up at him, tears threatening to rise, and before I could speak, he added, softly, you don't have to say anything. Just wanted you to know. I stood there for a moment, holding the notebook to my chest. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I stepped into him, wrapping my arms around his waist. He stiffened. Surprise then melted into the embrace. We stayed like that, quiet, still, heart speaking where words could not. That night I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling again. But this time I wasn't haunted by silence. I was held by the thought of someone downstairs, Someone who had become more than a presence, more than a friend. Someone who had waited patiently for my heart to find its way back to itself. Over the next few days, something shifted. We didn't have to hide anymore, not from each other. At least the world still wouldn't understand. But within the walls of our home, we created a space where healing looked like laughter again, where grief could sit quietly in the corner, while life continued to unfold around it. One morning, as we sipped tea, the adage turned to me with a quiet smile. "Can I ask you something?" he said. Of course. If things were different, if life had given us a different path, do you think we still would have found each other? Looked at him, my heart full. Think some connections. Find a way. No matter the path. He nodded slowly, reaching for my hand. This time I didn't hesitate. I let his fingers interlace with mine.